The Torah at the end of Parshas Vayeitzei records a striking dialogue, conversation between Lavan and Yaakov. I once heard from my Rabbi, Agon Rav Tzidok Kanatapsky Zatzal, an approach to understand this dialogue. We'll read some of the psukim, and we'll make some ha'aros in the psukim. After Yaakov demonstrates anger to Lavan, why did you pursue me so doggedly, so tenaciously? For 20 years I was devoted to you. And Yaakov uses very striking language. Yaakov worked for Laban 20 years, faithfully, honestly, and you, Laban, deceived me many times over. If not for the schus avos and the fact that Hashem Yisbarach protected me, I would have literally walked out of your home empty-handed. The Rambam writes at the end of Hilchos Siros, he says, Sharei Yaakov at-Tzadik. Yaakov, the great Tzadik. The only time in Mishnah Torah does the Rambam use such language, Yaakov at-Tzadik, 24/7, he worked for Lavan. And now the dialogue begins. Vayam Lavan Vayomer Yaakov. Despite all this, Lavan pretends to ignore this entire peroration on the part of Yaakov, and he says, Habanos benosai, the daughters are mine, Vabanim bonai, and the children are mine, Vatzon tzoni, and the flock is mine, V'chol asher atar elihu. Let us go ahead and consummate, put together a covenant, a bris, says Lavan to Yaakov. What exactly is the nature of that bris? So the Torah then goes on to describe the elements, the components of that bris. Vayikach Yaakov oven, vayimeh matzeva. Yaakov takes a stone and erects a matzeva. Yaakov then tells to his family members, Liktu avonim, vayichla avonim, vayasu go. They made a gal shel avonim, a mound of stones. Vayochlu shamal go. Vayikol Lavan yigar sadusa v'Yaakov karelo galei. Two different names are conferred upon the stone. Lavan calls it yigar sadusa. The Gemara Megillah comments on this Aramaic expression, and Yaakov calls it galei. Why two different terms being utilized by Lavan and Yaakov? Vayom Lavan hagal ze'ed ben yu ben chahayom alkein karosh mo galei. And then Lavan gives a very strong Musa shmuz to Yaakov. In ta'anes benosai, in tikach noshim al benosai, ein nishimonu ve'elo kimei ben yu benecha. Vayom Lavan Yaakov, in hagal ze'ed in matzeva shirabisi ben yu benecha, ein hagal ze'ed, ein matzeva. You should not violate the bris. I should not violate the bris. And then the Torah says, Lavan has the following comment. He invokes the God of Abraham, the God of Nachor, should judge between us, the God of their fathers, namely Terach. What does Yaakov do? Vayishava Yaakov b'fachad of Yitzchak. What is exactly the nature of the bris that's taking place? Each one seems to be going on their own merry way. Each one disregarding the other. Clearly, if you will, there's a very fundamental difference between how Yaakov views this bris and how Lavan views this bris. At the end, the psukim say, "Vayizbach Yaakov zerach bahar, vayikol lechol lechem, vayochul lechem ve'olin bahar." The Meshech Chochmah in his Parshas al Torah, Rabbi Simcha Kohen Midvinsk, points out this is the first time that you find Shritas Chulin in the Torah. Vayizbach Yaakov Zevach Bahar. He quotes the Gemara. The Gemara says the term Zevach, in effect, B'mokum shezov chati. Where the blood flows, that's where you should make the incision. That's where the Shrita should be done. Yaakov here was Mechadesh Shrita. With reference to Karbanos, they had Shrita. But Achilas Psar Chulin, this is something that seems to be unique. Vayashki Lavan baboker, vayinashik Lavan v'nosav v'varach etzem, And Vayelech Vayosher Lavan Mimkomo, he goes to his home. Yaakov halach ledarko, Yaakov goes on his way. Vayifku bo malachei Elokim. So my Rabbi suggested, what is happening over here is that there are two different conceptions of what the bris was all about. We know in Tanakh and in the Torah, there are two different types of britot, two different types of covenants. One is designed to bring people together. Unquestionably, the bris of Maimer HaSinai was a bris that was designed to unite Klal Yisrael, Vayichan Sham Yisrael, B'lei Echad Ki Ish Echad. The Torah, of course, is the element that clearly unifies Am Yisrael, Klal Yisrael. But then, there are a number of britot that are found in Tanakh, and specifically we'll mention one in the Torah, where the object of that bris is to essentially consummate a kind of peace pact between two individuals, or, in the language of the poet, good fences make good neighbors. You go your way, and I go my way, and as long as we don't have dissension and conflict, everything is fine. But it's clear we cannot possibly travel together. And we have a number of examples of such britot. One example which is fairly evident, Avimelech is involved in a number of such covenants with the Avos, Avosenu Bakdoshim, but clearly the intent is, you go your way, and I go my way. What exactly is happening over here, my Rebbe asked, with reference to the bris between Lavan and Yaakov? So of course the answer to that question is, depends whom you ask. Lavan realized that his entire Hatzlacha, materially, financially, came about as a result of his being in the ambience of Yaakov Avinu. The fact of the matter is that Lavan became wealthy when he was in the environs of Yaakov Avinu. But Yaakov realized his family and Lavan cannot possibly coexist. Lavan stands for trickery, deceit, deception, avarice, greed. Essentially, Lavan is Chazal and the Mefarshim of Yaakov Kamen. Take the letters Lamed Beis Nun, and as we know, you can transpose the letters, and you have Novel. Lavan essentially is a Novel, a horrendous person, one whose midos are absolutely beneath contempt. His entire lifestyle is a lifestyle of chicanery, of trickery, of deception. Yaakov Avinu is the Ish Emes. He's the one, Titan Emes Yaakov, he's the one who operates with Yashrus. And therefore Yaakov realizes, in order that his family should be able to develop properly, he simply have to leave the environs of Lavan, they have to separate. Good fences make good neighbors. Chazal, the Gemara comments, Yaakov Avinu was Mesakin Erevin. Erevin, of course, is a kind of mechitza. Or the pasuk in Dvarim, Vayishkon Yisrael betach badar in Yaakov, and Eretz Donam B'sirosh. Yaakov Avinu represents the idea of mechitzas. That's what the Tzid points out in his Parshas Al Torah a number of times. And Yaakov realizes, I have to separate from Lavan Haramai, Lavan the trickster. But again, the problem is, how do you go about doing it? So they consummate a bris. And as I said, there are two types of brito. One between Avimelech and Avram, the bris of separation, and Lavan also, the bris is one of separation, at least from the standpoint of Yaakov Avinu. Where is there evidence of the two perspectives? The evidence is right in the text. We'll just bring two or three examples. Yaakov goes ahead and tells his family, Litu Avanim, Vayichu Avanim Vayasu Gal, Vayachu Shom Alagol, a mound of stones designed to, as I said, create a separation. Yaakov calls it Galei. What does Lavan call it? Yigar Sadusa. What is the definition of that expression, Yigar Sadusa? So the Mefarshim point out, the word Yigar is related to the language of Ogar. Ogar means to gather together. Ogar Bakayitz Lachma. Leichem Lamala Otzel, Rei Dvachel Bachacham Seshlam HaMelech. Asher Ogar Bakayitz Lachma, the Namal, knowing the winter is about to come, and he's going to go into hibernation, has to go ahead and protect himself by preparing, by storage, by storing food for the entire winter. So he gathers, kernel by kernel, grain by grain. Ogar Bakayitz Lachma. So what does Lavan call this Galei? Yaakov calls it Galei, the mound designed to separate between the two. What does Lavan call it? Yigar. Let's gather the forces together. Yigar Sa'adusa. And thus Lavan wants to cement the relationship, wants to maintain the unity of the family, does not want a separation. And Yaakov says, no, good fences make good neighbors. Beyond that, the Torah then goes on and tells us why Lavan gives him a Musa Shmuz. And Yaakov indicates, no, I cannot be with you. I have to separate from you. And therefore the Torah says, Vayizbach Yaakov Zevach Bahar. There's a whole discussion among the Doli HaRishonim regarding in Yerodei actually, with reference to Shechita, what exactly the Makar for Shechita is, what's the function of Shechita. Big Machlokes of Rishonim quoted by the Meforshim and Shulchan Aruch. But what's of interest to us is Yaakov was Mechadish Shechita. And there's no question, the Torah itself indicates to us that Shechita, the notion that one cannot eat an animal unless it's slaughtered properly, differentiates Klal Yisrael from the Umas Olam. The Torah later on mentions in Sefer Dvarim, when it speaks about the love of intermarrying, the Torah says, Lo sischatein ba, we're not allowed to intermarry, you're not allowed to marry outside of the faith, you have to maintain marriage relationships have to be within the family. In that context, the Torah says also the following. Hisham alecha Pentichlos bris yoshev aretz. Why? Why was he very careful and not get involved, not make covenants with Yoshev Aretz, the non-Jews who live in Eretz Yisrael? So the Torah tells us very clearly because of the following issue. Chas v'shalom, v'zonu acharei Eloheim, v'zalchu le'Eloheim, v'kor lecha, v'achaltem yizivcho. This is the pasuk in Yisisa, Perek Lamed, pasuk Tesvav. Pentichros bris le'Yoshev Aretz. Lest we make a covenant with those who live in Eretz Yisrael, and God forbid, be led astray, be enticed by their gods. V'zochu le'Eloheim, v'kor lecha, v'achaltem yizivcho. So here again, the Torah is referring to the notion of Shechita. According to many, the Gemara in Chulin says that in this passage we see Shechitas Akum is also. That the Shechita of a non-Jew is not permissible. It's a Mishnah. Don't make a bris, because here there might be some familiarity that perhaps will be created, some congeniality, some conviviality, and therefore by Yizbach Yaakov Zevach Bahar, Yaakov wants a total bris of separation. And that's indicated in the third way by the nature of the gods that they invoke. Lavan and gods, the God invokes the God of Abraham, the God of Nachar, but the God of their father, namely Terach. Terach has a one point, the David Abenazar. So Lavan wants to go back to the roots. What does Yaakov do? Yaakov takes a shua. Yitzchak, of course, is now totally separated. One generation separated from whom? From Terach. And even though the Sforno actually comments in the Psukim in Vayeitzei, Hamalach HaGoel Simikol Ram Yivarech Esanorim Yikar Vem Shemi V'Shem Vayeitzei Avram Yitzchak. Vayeitzei Avram Yitzchak. So the Sforno says, not Terach and not Nachar. What does Yaakov do? Yaakov wants to indicate, all right, he's a biological descendant of Terach. Yitzchak is not, he's already removed, and Yaakov wants to sever the relationship between himself and Lavan. So here we have an amazing statement that the Torah is making through the context of this bris, namely, in order for the Kedusha Knesset Yisrael to be maintained, we have to build mechitzas, we have to build walls between ourselves and Umas Olam. Unquestionably, we have to interact with Umas Olam in a number of areas that are common to us. However, when it comes to our Avodas Hashem, when it comes to our Dveikus in Hashem Yisbarach, when it comes to our values, our ideals, our attributes, there we have to effect a total separation from the Umas Olam. All this is embedded in the dialogue that the Torah describes here between Yaakov and Lavan, and of course, Maisa of a similar Labanim. This is a similar netzach for how Klal Yisrael, for how the generation should conduct themselves. They should, in effect, recognize this quality of Yaakov Avinu. Vayishkom Yisrael betach bodod ein Yaakov. Hein am lebodod yishkom u'bagoyim lo yitzchashav. If we remain lebodod with our own values, our own distinctive purity and kedusha, yitzchashav. But if chas v'sholom u'bagoyim, we integrate, assimilate, acculturate, lo yitzchashav, we won't be able to exist, to survive. And since we have Haftocha, Netzach Yisrael v'Yishaker, Allah HaKadosh Baruch should give us the insight, the intelligence, the perspicacity to be able to make these discriminating distinctions when we should, shall we say, come together in order that we should have common elements with Umas Olam, but preeminently, primarily, recognize our uniqueness and distinctiveness in terms of our values, Avodas Hashem, and thereby maintain Netzach Yisrael Lo Yishak.